I'm Jacob Hornberger, president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, and this is episode 6 of my series on the JFK assassination. One of the most interesting aspects of the autopsy that the U.S. military conducted on the body of President John F. Kennedy was the role that Lyndon Johnson played in all this. You'll recall that when that team of Secret Service agents at Dallas Parkland Hospital brandished guns and threatened to kill anyone who got in their way and prevented them from taking the president's body out of Parkland, where they prevented the Dallas County medical examiner from conducting the autopsy as required by law. They said that they were operating under orders. Well, there's only one person who reasonably could have issued that order, and that's Lyndon Johnson. Because he was the guy sitting at Dallas Love Field having his people remove the seat from the back of Air Force One in anticipation that that team of Secret Service agents would be bringing the body soon to Air Force One. Now, when Kennedy was shot, his car proceeded directly to Parkland Hospital. Johnson was in a different car in the motorcade. His car also proceeds to Parkland Hospital. And while at Parkland Hospital, Johnson expresses the concern of the possibility that this assassination might be the first step in a Soviet surprise nuclear attack on the United States. As we'll see, that's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous in the possible sense that this could happen. Certainly it could have been a possibility. This was the height of the Cold War. The Soviet Union and the United States had come within an inch of nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis a few months before. What's ridiculous, as we'll see, is the notion that Johnson believed that that was a possibility. Now, if Johnson really believed that that was a possibility, would he have gone to Parkland Hospital, or would he instead have directly gone straight to Love Field, gotten on Air Force One or Air Force Two, gotten up in the air, and directed America's defenses to this possible nuclear war? The fact that he goes to Parkland Hospital is very revealing. Now, as soon as Kennedy's declared dead, Johnson gets in the car and starts to rush to Dallas Love Field. On the way there, he again starts playing this role. He scrunches down in the seat and says, this could be the possibility of a Soviet attack. They could ambush us. Never mind that if they were going to ambush him, they would have had a military team at Parkland Hospital to do that. But he rushes to get to Love Field with this possibility in mind. And then what does he do at Love Field? Does he get up in the air immediately to direct America's defenses? No. He lollygags around at Love Field waiting for that casket to appear. In the meantime, he telephones the Attorney General, Bobby Kennedy, to get an opinion as to whether he needs to be sworn in to be legally the president. Now, here he is concerned about the possibility of a nuclear attack, and he's thinking about whether he needs to be sworn in. So Bobby Kennedy, of course, says, no, of course not. You're automatically the president. That wasn't good enough for Johnson. Now, he later said that Kennedy told him something different, but how likely is that? But in any event, Johnson summons a federal judge to come and swear him in while this possibility supposedly exists that the Soviet Union's getting ready to launch nuclear missiles. Now, there were two separate planes there at Dallas Love Field. There was Air Force Two and Air Force One. Air Force Two was Johnson's plane. They were mirror images of each other, duplicates. There was absolutely no reason why Johnson could not have gotten onto Air Force Two and gotten up in the air. Instead, he makes Air Force One his plane. He is now the president, you see, so he's going to make Air Force One his plane. Now, he later said that the real reason that he lollygagged around was he wanted to wait for Mrs. Kennedy. He was being chivalrous. He didn't want to leave her alone there in Dallas, as if this was some foreign country or something. But when Mrs. Kennedy arrives at Dallas Love Field with the casket, the thing is, she is obviously filled with despair and shock and traumatized. She's just lost her husband an hour before. Her clothes are covered with the president's blood, and not surprisingly, she heads straight to her bedroom. The problem is that Mr. Chivalry, Lyndon Johnson, has not had any of advisors tell her that he has commandeered her and President Kennedy's plane. She thinks this is still their plane, and that Johnson's naturally going to go back on Air Force Two. She proceeds directly to her bedroom, and guess who is sprawled out on her bed? Yes, Mr. Chivalry, Lyndon Johnson. And here's the clincher. When he arrives at Dallas Love Field, not only does he commandeer Air Force One, but he actually has his aides take the luggage out of Air Force Two and transfer it to Air Force One. Does this look like a man who is concerned about the possibility of a nuclear strike by the Soviet Union? So it's clear as we look at this thing, and keep in mind that when you're examining circumstantial evidence, you don't leave your common sense out of the equation, that when we look at this thing, it's clear that Johnson was charged with two responsibilities. One was to get that body out of Dallas at all costs and prevent an autopsy from being conducted by the civilian authorities as required by state law, and to get that body into the hands of the U.S. military back in Washington, D.C. or Maryland. Second, he was charged with the responsibility of conjuring up this possibility of nuclear war between the United States and the Soviet Union. Keep that second point in mind, because it becomes a central element in what is undoubtedly one of the most brilliantly cunning, highly sophisticated plots in the history of assassination, one based on the two most important words in the American political lexicon in our time: national security.